To introduce myself, my name is Dan Prue. I'm the General Manager at the Greater Vernon Chamber, so I'll be helping to facilitate the discussion and moderate. So thank you again to MLA Sandhu and Minister Bains for joining us today. And I'll just hand it over quickly to our Chamber President, Robin Cardew, for an official welcome.
Thank you, Dan. To everyone, thank you for joining us today. We've got a very important topic that we're discussing and getting some more information from local businesses. And we really thank Harwinder and Minister Bains for providing us the opportunity to give some local input from local businesses. No one's debating that we want sick employees coming to work. No one wants sick employees coming, and we're just wanting to put forth some of the negative impacts that there are going to be to business with what's being proposed. So again, just thank you for the opportunity, and we have some members that would like to provide some input.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Robert. So I'd like to throw it over to Minister Bains and MLA Sandhu, if you would like the opportunity to discuss details of the permanent sick leave proposal for everybody.
Okay, thank you once again. Good afternoon, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all and inviting me to speak to you on this very important policy issue that we are discussing and are planning to implement come January 1st. And I once again want to thank your local MLA Harwinder. She spoke to me some time ago and then continued to talk to me and push to have this meeting going, and I'm really thankful to her and to all of you to fit it into our calendars. And I have my staff members with me. Maybe I should introduce them first. Trevor Hughes, my deputy, is here. So I have seen Deneen Leduc, my assistant deputy, and I have Crystal Smith, my MA. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I see Josh Murray here from Victoria, another assistant, and Jasmine Sangha here with me in Surrey. And I would like to take this opportunity before we go any further to acknowledge the Coast Salish people on host territory that I am speaking to you from. And I would ask that all of you reflect in your particular area where you are speaking from. And I think moving forward, I would start by saying that one of the most critical lessons we learned during COVID-19 is the importance of people staying home when they were sick. And so that we could contain the spread of illness and keep the workplaces safe and productive. We heard from employers in our survey that they value sick leave as it helps keep their workplaces safe for employees and promote confidence in public when they enter their businesses. It also helped them avoid a costly closure orders if illness spread through a workplace. I think many of you may be aware there were over 100, at least in Fraser Health and other areas, businesses that had to be shut down because the spread of COVID in those operations. And that is a very, very costly experience those businesses went through. And they were, of course, I would like to see that didn't happen. And I think the only way that happened is if worker who is sick, stay home, don't come to work. That will stop the transmission of the virus at workplaces. And then those workers went home to their families. Not only impacted the businesses, some of them had to be shut down, but then they went home, to live with their families and their communities. And that also impacted our community and the healthcare system as well. So it is a kind of a lose-lose-lose situation. And so the best way to support, in our view, is BC economic recovery, because that's where we're moving right now, is to ensure that the workers don't have to make that choice, staying home sick, or staying home sick and lose pay, or go to work sick, which was a concern shown by many employer and workers, that they were concerned that the workers were showing up to work when they were sick. And many workplaces already, of course, as you know, already provide paid sick leave to their employees. Well, we also know that about half of all workers in BC do not have access to paid sick leave. And most of those workers are in lower paying jobs, often held by women and racialized communities, those who can least afford to lose wages. So they ended up going to work. Our government has responded to the pandemic with a number of supports to businesses and to workers. As you know, first we came up with job protected sick leave right in the beginning when COVID hit us. And then we came out with a 3 days unpaid sick leave. And then we came up with the 3 days paid sick leave with the support to businesses by way of reimbursing $200 per day per worker, the days that they take off. So since we introduced the legislation in May this year, those were the two components. One was the unpaid leave, and the paid sick leave with the reimbursement. And also the second part of the legislation was to have a permanent paid sick leave effective January 1st, 2022. Now, how we arrived at that was because we tried to work with the federal government because it was a national, not only national, but international pandemic. And we were working with the federal government to see if we could have a national program like EI program. And our premier and our other ministers I met with my counterpart, the federal government, to look, we appreciate the work that you have done. Thank you for listening, but there are flaws in there. One, that the $500 per week that they were offering is less than our minimum wage. So there's no incentive for people to stay home when they were sick. The second part was that you must lose 50% of your week of work for that week for you to qualify. So we said, look, at least allow us to make up the difference. We will add another $500 and we will start paying from day one. But they, if you don't claw back, they said they couldn't do it under their current legislation. So it was a lengthy process, they couldn't do it. So they said to the provinces, you have to come up with your own sick leave program. So then we went to work, and that's how we arose at that. So those are the number of things that we take. And then also the part of that was that we would do this through a proper, thorough consultation. We went through 2 phases. One is completed September. In that part of the survey or the consultation, we were learning what exists out there. Where are the gaps in the current system? And what we learned, and then how do we move based on what we learned to the second phase? And that's where we are at now. Learning from what we learned, what we heard from the first survey, is to go back to the businesses, back to the workers and others who will be impacted by our policy, whether there's a 3 days, 5 days, or 10 days, or whatever model they suggest that we should go with. So in addition to a regular consultation, I held, just like this one, I think 8 person to person, with the business groups, with the labor group, with the nonprofit and other groups. I have held those meetings because I believe that they should have the opportunity to speak to me directly, and as you are doing, and that's what we did. And there was a very, very positive, in way of consultation, positive response to that. So per survey, excuse me, was also available in multiple languages to ensure that we reach to as broader a population as possible. So we heard that the many employees without access to paid sick leave report regularly going to work sick or returning to work before they were fully recovering. And that concern was shared by both employer and by workers, that they were concerned that the workers were coming to work sick when they should be sitting at home. It was also interesting to hear that both of them were very concerned. And also, of course, we heard from the businesses, employers, who are concerned about the cost, as was mentioned here early, of providing paid sick leave to their workers. So now that we are in second phase, and I think the option we presented based on what we learned is whether there should be 3 days, 5 days, or 10 days. And that information is coming back, the feedback's coming. And I must say, as was the first case, 26,000 results of surveys that were received in the first phase. And now we already, up until October 8th, 21,500 surveys has already has come back. And I think that's where we're going through, and that's why I'm here talking to you, thanks to Harvinder and many of you pushing and saying that we should be meeting. So what we like to hear in this part is, what are the appropriate minimum number of days of annual paid sick leave in BC? And also, are there timing or other considerations you would like to share? And this survey will be closing October 25th. And then from what we would have learned in this second part of the survey, we will take some time to analyze it, but we will make a decision before the end of this year, how many days and what model we're choosing to go forward. But one thing is for sure, because legislation is passed, that there will be a paid sick leave provisions available to all workers and employers starting January 1st, 2022. And so we believe as a government that paid sick leave is also, as was mentioned before, many businesses have said that it's good for them in order to keep the businesses safer and also to keep operational in the event of communicable diseases that a worker may bring to the workplace. So I really want to thank you once again for having me here, and I appreciate what you have to tell us so that we could make the decision based on what we hear.
Yeah, thank you, Minister Bains. We do appreciate you making this part of your consultation process, reaching out to businesses and nonprofits to hear our concerns and let our voice be heard. I do want to reiterate that, I don't think anybody is going to argue that we want sick people coming to work and potentially infecting others, but there are potential negative impacts and challenges that this will create for business. So we definitely appreciate the opportunity to discuss those and share some of them to decrease some of the harm that it may cause business. So I'm going to go around the table here and give everybody a chance, about 2 minutes each to just reiterate what some of their concerns are, and then we'll bring it back for further discussion, as long as that works for everybody. So I would like to start with Karen Darlene, who represents Keith Darlene Construction. Karen.
Hi, thanks so much for having us be part of this roundtable discussion. Really impressed by the fact that we are allowed to partake in these things. I'm Karen Dolan, and my husband and I have owned Keith Construction for many years, and we're family owned and operated business for over 30 years in Vernon area. And our sons have just joined our business, so we're now going to be a third generation business. So we're very proud of that. I must say though, that I am a little disappointed that the governments keep coming back to the free enterprise for additional income via taxes. It's a real struggle to maintain our staff and be competitive. There's a real problem with providing affordable housing, and that's a huge issue in our province and our country. And the more that we are taxed, the harder it is to provide affordable housing. And there's a tipping point when there's no more money to extract from small business. So it's a concern for us. Our costs are already significant with regards to what the employer has to contribute for their employees. Besides, we're paying GST, PST, carbon tax. The employer is also paying WCB, EI, CPP, which once again is going up again this year. It was at 4.95% for years and years, and it keeps going up every year. So this year is going to go up to 5.7%. The EHT, which was mandated upon us 2 years ago with no warning, and that's a significant amount of money. Our company will probably spend $60,000 as our share this year to pay people's MSP. Besides, which is frustrating to me, is that the first year that we paid, as did the public. Everybody paid their MSP and we paid as well. So double dipping in my mind. And to retain staff, we have group health benefits, We do a profit sharing bonus system. We give our quite a few of our journeyman carpenters truck and tool allowances. Plus we have 10 stat days, 10 to 15 paid vacation days. Like, sort of, where does it end the cost for our business? So right now we have about 21 employees. And today our average cost per employee that we are paying on top of the base wage is $14,500. So it's very significant. And then if we were to add the cost of a paid sick leave, 3 days could cost us almost $20,000 a year. 5 days are probably over 30, and 10 days is over $60,000 a year. So it's a very significant cost. That adds another 20% to what we're already paying. I guess I'd have to say, with the shortage of labor as it stands, employees now want increased pay, more benefits, more perks. Like, in order to maintain our staff, it's really costing us a lot. And I don't know how much more small business can take on. Small businesses are the backbone of the Canadian economy. And today I did some research, and the small businesses employ 8.2 million individuals and make up 70.5% of the total private labor force. And as it stands, governments are breaking the spirit of small businesses in Canada. We can't do much more. So I am a little concerned. I appreciate we don't want sick people to work, and maybe we need pay of some sort, but at some point, who is going to help the small business? And for the housing industry, this is hurting us a lot. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen, for your feedback. Appreciate that. And I would like to turn it over to B at Kindale Developmental Association, if you'd like to provide some information.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting us to attend too. And Karen, I definitely appreciate what you've said. I agree in the concept completely, 100%. I just don't know where we're going to find the funds to pay for this. We're a nonprofit organization. To pay for this, I have to take it from the programming of the people that I serve. There's only one spot to take it from. They're the ones that are going to suffer. Their programming is going to be reduced. I when we spoke the other day, Dan, I just said, I agree with all the small businesses. I mean, we're a large organization. We are actually one of the largest service providers in the Okanagan Valley, and we service from Lumbee, Coldstream, Vernon, Squamish, Armstrong, Falkland, Enderby, Salmon Arm, all the way up the valley. We have so many small business community partners that support us. I don't know how they are going to pay for this. They are struggling. Everybody has struggled through COVID. PPE is a whole nother topic to talk about. The price of fuel, I mean, I could carry on here for hours, but this is just, again, where do we find the money to pay for it? You know, some people might say, why does it always boil down to the money? Because you have to cut the check. You have to pay for it. There's no way around it. So you have to take the money from somewhere else. And in our situation, we're going to take it from our programming because it's the only area that we can take it from. And Karen, you are right. The mandatory employer related costs have gone through the roof, and we're going to get hit again. I just don't know where it's going to end. I don't.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, B, for providing that valuable feedback. We appreciate it. I'll turn it over now to Michael Milner. He's a director with the Chamber of Commerce, as well as sits on our advocacy committee, and he's the owner of Restoration Lab.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you for your commitment to allowing us to address this. I think from my perspective, and I'm sure it reflects a lot of our membership in the small, medium, and large business community. If you go back to when the conversations really started happening around this, it wasn't just COVID that brought it on. Some of it came prior to COVID, but during the election campaign, Premier Horgan made statements on at least 2 occasions, which I've referenced through press conferences, one on December 2020 and one on April 27, 2021, where he indicated that work was done through the summer to bring forward a provincial plan, and we're taking those off the shelves and looking how to implement it in a seamless way without putting more burden on business at a time when they can least afford it. Now, fast forward to where we're sitting at right now, and it's not really looking like that's the case. And again, we've already established collectively around the Zoom table here that nobody's against providing some mechanism to make sure that unhealthy people don't have to go to work because they need to choose between paying their mortgage or putting food on their table. But in our example, and without beleaguering the points, similar to what Karen referenced, our current base cost, excluding workers' compensation, is 14.7% of our gross payroll. We've already absorbed, the business community has already absorbed a increase in minimum wage. And don't forget that it's not just about bringing those wages up. Now you've got your next tier of employees who are saying, hey, these guys are getting this. Now we need to bump things up for employee retention, which is a significant component of a healthy business right now. We've also absorbed, employer health tax and all these things. So the burden truly has come on the business community, contrary to what the hopes and desires of bringing a program like this. Our 14.7%, again, excluding WorkSafe premiums and probably a few other things, including profit sharing and bonuses, would increase by 0.4% per day of implementation. So if we went 10 days, we've got another 4%. Now, bear in mind, you have to replace all those people, you have to call other people in. So you're really doubling up on a lot of your costs, and a lot of that will end up resulting in overtime. So that's the case study on our business. And I think that one of the desires and one of the hopeful outcomes of not just surveys, but meetings and consultations like this is, what are the solutions? Well, if I look at WCB's mandate for promoting a safe workplace, it's my opinion, and I've had discussions with other people on this panel and some of the other members, that consideration should be given to handing some of this over, if not all of it, over to WorkSafe. Because you have to factor in the main rationale behind this, especially as it's exacerbated by COVID, in that the desire is to keep the other workers safe. That's a mandate of an employer, and that's the mandate of WorkSafe BC. And if that should be considered to be the case, certainly WorkSafe premiums shouldn't be affected as a claims ratio by people utilizing the program. So I think ultimately, without getting too political about this, I think somehow we need to hold Premier Horgan's and the current party in British Columbia feet to the fire a little bit, because just one more comment. If we back this up, yes, you've had very positive response from the business community and from the employers, but if we back this up and people have in their mind that the framework around this was, okay, we need this, but we're not going to put the burden on businesses, that has kind of softened the early blow, but that's not what this is resulting in. So I think there's a bit of a disconnect between what people think may be happening and the reality of paying those extra costs and doing what many around here have already done and calculating what those costs are. So we really hope you take these points seriously into consideration and recognize that the pressures that we've already experienced as employers are going to be further challenged in the future. But thank you for your time. Thank you for hearing me out, and on behalf of the chamber and our members that we serve.
Thank you, Michael. And with time quickly winding down, we still want to try and get to two more people at least before a little bit of discussion. Carrie's a city councilor here at Vernon and also owner at Verico Mortgage House. Would you like to contribute to something quickly?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me here. Obviously, I'm a city councilor with the city of Vernon. But I'm actually going to speak to you today, not so much on the political side, but also on the small business side, because I have both my feet in the political sphere as well as in the small business sphere. And I don't own just one business. I actually own multiple businesses. And the challenge that I see with this, with any well-intended policy change that comes out, we sometimes fail to see what the potential unintended consequences of those changes may be down the road. So right now, obviously, the mindset is, how do we protect employees, staff from getting sick, and then obviously from spreading that? But simultaneously, how do we also protect the business owners from a system such as this from being abused? The industry that I'm in right now, and I can kind of bring into CERB. CERB is actually a really good indicator of how much that particular program was abused. I'm in the industry where I see multiple clients on a daily basis, and I look at their financials, and I have seen probably out of all the files, 25% of my clients have actually abused CERB. They didn't need it, they took it because there was no questions asked. What is the government going to do in a situation like that to protect these small business owners from employees taking it upon themselves to call in sick when maybe they're not sick? How do we prevent, if we have a staff of say 10 people and 4 of them call in sick at the same time and now it's mandated, where are we as small business owners going to be able to find the resources, let alone the staff, to facilitate that? And I think that this is where it becomes a balance of scales, if you will, because the challenge that we have is that if we lose our staff, we have no staff. But if we lose our staff to being sick, we have no staff. And so it is a bit of a balancing, a juggling act, if you will. And that is where my primary focus is how do we ensure that we put the parameters in place to protect these small business owners should a policy like this be implemented from not being abused by the very employees that we're trying to protect? Because the reality is it's human nature. And in human nature, if we don't have any questions, there's no proof of, they're actually sick with COVID or whatever illness it may be, and it just becomes, yes, okay, you call in, you're getting paid this day, that can actually undermine the small business owner. That actual business itself can falter and fail because they don't have it.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Sorry to cut you off there. We definitely want to make sure that Scott has an opportunity to have some input there. So Scott Durward, he's a director with the Chamber as well, and on our advocacy committee, also a director of HR with Tolko Industries. So Scott, over to you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Dan, and good afternoon, everybody. And I just have a couple of points. First, I've since March of 2020, I've been responsible for making sure our company has a safe place for employees to come to work, that we continue to operate. That's 2,500 employees across 3 provinces. And I will say proudly that we have continued to operate throughout this pandemic in a safe manner, and through using a lot of different levers and mechanisms to ensure that our employees are safe and that we're pandemic free. So, you've heard some of the issues and some of the problems that we're predicting are going to present themselves to business with the implementation of this new sick leave policy. We have a couple of requests, and with these requests, we can, these are the things that we can unqualifiedly support this program. And the first one is to ensure that for a period of time or on a permanent basis, this sick leave program, and it's a casual sick leave program. So we're talking about somebody phones in sick on day 1 and is paid for day 1 to 3, 1 to 5, or 1 to 10. Make sure that that program is cost neutral for a period of time. Allow business to have an adjustment period where they are reimbursed for the cost of that sick leave for the prescribed number of days, to allow them to put mechanisms in place. We've only got 3 months to prepare for this, around modified alternate duties and dealing with sick leave and culpable and non-culpable absenteeism, and provide some HR support to those small businesses who are going to be dealing with something which they may not have dealt with before. So that's the first one. Allow businesses who don't have a casual sick leave program in place that reimburses from day 1 for it to be cost neutral and reimburse them for those days, similar to what was happened in the COVID 3 days leave, but specifically targeted at those businesses that don't have a casual sick leave program. Number 2, from the unionized sector, there's some challenges here with inserting a new benefit into collective agreements. And what that might do is it might increase benefits without a negotiation and cause some fairly, difficult labor relationships. It can also reduce what's existing and allowable to employees. There's some unintended consequences with the greater of provisions of the Employment Standards Act that could work for or against, employees and employers. So our ask is that, understanding that this is going to happen, is allow unionized employers to negotiate the prescribed number of sick days into their collective agreements when their collective agreements come up for renewal. Allow us to bring that in a manner that we can do that on a negotiated basis rather than inserting it into those collective agreements, and allow us to do it in the context of an overall bargain where we can make it work for everybody that's involved, all the parties. So those are our requests of this program, and thank you again very much for the time for us to be able to have this input into this.
I can just interject 1 second. Scott, yesterday when we were talking, you said most of the small business has already developed their budget for 2022. We didn't know this was going to be coming in, and we still don't even know how much. So how are we supposed to deal with those unknown costs? It was a very good point.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Scott. Seeing that we are already at time, I do want to throw it back to Minister Bains and Minister Sandhu, or MLA Sandhu, if you would like to have any closing remarks or feedback to what has been said.
Why don't we hear from MLA Sandhu, then I'll close if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I really want to appreciate everyone for sharing your concerns. That was the main goal for this meeting. And I just wanted to make sure I'm very grateful to Minister Bains and his ministry for being very open to having these very important, highly valuable discussions. And we all know that businesses are backbone of our economies. Businesses employ 75 to 85% of people, and you give back to communities. And in our communities, whether it's COVID or fires, we've seen that generosity. So it was my goal to, have my communities to have their say. And I know Minister Bains has been very open, and everybody at the government level. As we know, the reason for the main goal, the minister has spoken, the COVID has shown the disproportionately affected marginalized people, largely women, immigrants, and that was the good intent to, and also to keep businesses safe and their safety and operation. But your input is highly valuable. So that was the purpose of this meeting. So I appreciate the feedback, and I'll let Minister do the closing comments because I don't want to take too much of your time. And I appreciate this opportunity and appreciate the dialogue.
Yeah, no, thank you, MLA Sandhu. Look, I really do appreciate the input that I've received from you, and I have received similar from other groups when I met with large, smaller employer groups, and also from the other side, nonprofit and the workers' representative and workers themselves. And so I think it is always good to hear, and at the end of the day, we'll be making a decision. It may be I'm in a position that both sides may not like it, but it is something that government needs to consider from both sides and every side to make sure that we come up with what we believe is a balanced approach. And only way to do that is by listening. And sometimes we're accused, especially my ministry, that we are consulting too much. I think there is never too much consultation when we are talking about policy changes that is going to impact those same people that we are talking to. And so I think I just want to make a couple of points that came up here. One is the notice period. I think you may recall that in May we passed this legislation. Number one, that the 3 paid sick days with reimbursement until the end of December. We also announced at that time that the paid sick leave provision, permanent, will come January 1st, 2022. Now, the details were not available at that time because we want to, go through the consultation process in order to come up with a final decision. Yes, I hear you. You didn't know whether it's a 3 days, 5 days, or 10 days. So you didn't know who was going to pay at the end of the day because we still haven't made that decision. So I think those are valid points, and I have listened to you. The other part, I think Karen and others have made the point of retaining workers, or first of all, not even have the workers available to fill the vacancies you may have, and then retain them. And they're asking higher wages, higher benefits. I think that's one of the things that we need to look at. More people are coming to BC now. I mean, considering Stat Canada, just the recent report, 28,000 people came to BC. from other provinces compared to Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, where they lost 10 to 20,000 people in that year. So I think that is a plus for us. The more people are coming, but at the same time, the reason they're coming, I think the employees look at what is available to me, what kind of job is available to you, what kind of a benefit comes with it. And I understand the challenges always was the high cost of living here, high cost of housing, especially. And but now, when they see that there are some better working conditions and better benefits, I think it may help you in positive way that they are actually looking at you rather than going to Alberta or other places. So, but that is the challenge that I have faced from many businesses and business groups. Look, right now our biggest challenge is not having enough people, and we can't fill the vacancy. We can't work at a full capacity, and so that is a serious challenge. And they are saying, do something to have the workers available to us. Our Minister Colin is working with the federal government and within BC to see what we can do, either through immigration, through temporary foreign workers, however we can bring those people in. Because eventually we want workers who like to stay here, work here, contribute in the long term, because that is right thing for you, that is right thing for us as a society. So I think I just want to leave those thoughts with you. But again, it is a balancing act, as Kerry said, and we need to figure out. And one of the things, I think one of the component in here was that the employee must be employed at least 90 days. I don't know whether you guys have received that input from somewhere or not. It's not from day one. That's what we have today, and that's what I think that might be the case going forward. But I heard you that many of you have said shouldn't be day one, or as you say, casual sick days. So anyway, thank you very much, and it is a very useful, and I appreciate the input, seriously do. And I think once we have all of this information gathered, and after October 25th, we will analyze it, see what we heard. And I must say, so far, the 3, 5, and 10-day survey, one of the things is, I think it's about 20% employers are saying they strongly agree with 10 days. So, I mean, it's others, when you go to 3 days or you go to 5 days, the ratio is a little higher. So, so it is a information is coming from all sides with different approach and different take on this. So that is the tough task that I have, is to consolidate all of that, analyze all of that, and then make a decision based on what we heard. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Minister Bains. We do appreciate the opportunity to represent our more than 600 business and nonprofit members. I just want to throw it over to Robin, our president, if you had one last.
Can I, Dan, just I missed one thing. So this service still is available until, as I said, October 25th. So those of you who haven't, those of your members, please send them the message that I want to hear. I mean, those who couldn't be here today, but those who could go online and give their input through the Engage BC line, and that would be appreciated.
Absolutely. We've certainly been sharing it through our e-blast communications and social media. So I appreciate it. Robin.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. I appreciate the time for the small business to have their voice and to be heard. And hopefully this was beneficial for all parties. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye now.